Hello again. I wanted to give a bit of a postscript to the answer I gave after the service this morning at St Martin's to the question about why did Josiah stamp out all the, in fact it was the Asherah, but the female deity that was actually in the temple before his time. And so I'm going to refer a little bit to this book, which you remember I mentioned, the Temple Theology, and just read a tiny bit from this, which I think you'll find very interesting. It's on page 7. The most important result of Josiah's purge was the introduction of monotheism. The earlier religion had known of God Most High, the deity worshipped by Melchizedek, that's found in Genesis 14:19, for example, El Shaddai, which is the deity of the patriarchs, which we find in Exodus 6 verse 3, and Yahweh, who appeared in human form, for example, to shut Noah safely into the ark in Genesis 7:16. And there's no proof that these were, in their mind, originally one and the same deity. It was the prophet of the exile who declared that Yahweh was El and that there was no other God. That's Isaiah 43, I think. In the far more ancient names of the deities, however, we do have a glimpse of the Father, God Most High, the Son, Yahweh, the one who appeared in human form, and the Mother, El Shaddai, whose name means the God with breasts. And of course, the other thing that we also find in the Old Testament, particularly if we look at the book of Proverbs, for example, where wisdom is identified as feminine, and the wisdom calls to us from the streets and offers her wisdom to us. So there was that feminine aspect of wisdom, and actually right at the very, very beginning of the symbol of the tree of life was taken actually from pre-Christian times and pre-Christian pre-Jewish religions, where the tree symbolizes the feminine sacred, offering the fruit of wisdom. So all of that is found in the Old Testament. Then moving on to talk a little bit about the idea of the white robes that I was mentioning also. We were talking about Revelation 7 and that vision of the great multitude from every nation robed in white and waving palm branches, which the palm branches idea comes from the tabernacles. Well, actually it's lulubs, it was the branches that they would wave in the festival. But anyway, that's the context, although it was a vision, obviously. The context in the mind of the visionary, in how he would have understood it. But anyway, just to say, the ritual of the Day of Atonement was prescribed in Leviticus 16. The high priest, in this case was Aaron, had to prepare himself with ritual washings and sacrifices to enter the Holy of Holies. For there the Lord would appear to him in the cloud, i.e. in the incense, upon the caporet, or the mercy seat, that's Leviticus 16:2. The high priest had put on the linen garments worn only in the Holy of Holies. He did not wear the coloured vestment, which symbolized incarnation, because he was passing beyond the material state, which is the veil of the temple, passing beyond the material state to stand in the divine presence. He had to enter the Holy of Holies alone, and it's interesting that Philo understood things differently. When we read in Leviticus 16:17, there shall be no man in the tent of meeting when he enters to make atonement. Philo, who's about the same time as Jesus, now he understood obviously from ancient texts that were Hebrew, or the Septuagint as well. He shall not be a man when he enters to make atonement. Now Philo understood that the high priest in the Holy of Holies was divine, indicated by the white linen of the angels. So that's a little bit more about the idea of the white the white robes that I was also mentioning. So basically, if you want to read anything more about this, that's probably a good idea to pick it up from this book. There's also the idea that the perhaps I better not go into that, it'll take too long. But I was going to be talking about the idea that the Lord Christ was actually known before the time of Christianity. Now, the other aspect to do with the divine feminine and consorts and stuff like that to realise is that the Roman Church very severely persecuted all those who believed in these sort of things, and we don't realise that actually Jesus, it's very highly likely that Jesus himself was married to Mary Magdalene. Why do I say that? Well, because you remember that in I think it's all four Gospels mentioning the women who attended to the burial and who embalmed the body of Jesus after he had been put in the tomb. And these were all mentioned as the two Marys, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of Jesus, and Salome. Now actually, from the custom of the day, only those who are closely related to the deceased, very closely related, would be allowed to do that. That would be either the mother, the sister, or the wife. The mother Mary, the sister Salome, and the wife must have been Mary Magdalene. There's lots of evidence outside of the scriptures, but that is the one that most clearly appears in the New Testament itself. There is, of course, in the Gospel of Mary, found in Nag Hammadi texts, and there are lots and lots of these extra canonical texts, which give us a picture of Christianity that was very diverse and only became fixed into the current, what we know as Orthodox Christianity now, somewhere around about the 4th century, and with Constantine, particularly knocking the churches together, as it were, because he was wanting unity for the sake of political ends. But anyway, that's another story. But there was that diversity within Christianity at the beginning, and it's quite likely that Mary Magdalene, after the death of Jesus, ended up in south of France with a son, as is recorded, at least in the traditions found in the south of France. The whole tradition was kept alive by the Cathars, a heretical sect that was severely persecuted by the Roman Church. And there's been discovered another version of it's called the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, the complete Gospel of Mary Magdalene. I've got a version of it here, both in the original text and in the and it's incidentally it is very, very close to the Gospel of John. And who was the beloved disciple in the Gospel of John? I believe it was actually Mary Magdalene. But there was a problem between Peter and Mary of Magdalene after the resurrection, in that Peter didn't want or wasn't willing to accept Mary Magdalene's authority, who had been the closest companion of Jesus. And it was, I think, Thomas who supported Mary. This is something that is there in the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, but it makes interesting reading. Be that as it may, whether that is true, whether this is the genuine Gospel, I leave you to decide. I think there's very good evidence that it is, actually. But the main point I want to make is that just as much as the Judaism, the patriarchal Judaism, suppressed any understanding of the fact that there is a relationship between the masculine and the feminine in the Godhead, and therefore, and also suppressed any idea of Mary Magdalene being the wife of Jesus as well. So that is just something that I think we need to be aware of. There's a lot more I could say, but I'll leave it at that for the time being. Thank you very much.